let's take just a few minutes. Today's presentation is led by Annie Fritschner. She is an ACFRE, only one of maybe 100, 150 in the entire country, which is pretty exciting. Maybe we do need that microphone after all. Annie has been incredibly involved with our chapter for a number of years, serving everything from programs vice president to president. She has nearly 30 years of experience in this field, and she's going to talk to you today, or to us, about return on investment. Where are we wasting our time during the day, and where should we be spending it to get the most from our donors? So let's turn it over to Annie. Thanks.
Thank you. It is so good to be with you all today. Can you hear me at all? Yes. Okay, good. If you have your, yeah, that's good. Okay. So, yeah, I'm really glad to be here. It's always an honor to be with you because you all inspire me so tremendously in the work that you do. This is a group that I've been a member of for over 20 years, I think, of this chapter, and then Alex and I have our 25-year buttons on from AFP membership, so we're going to do a selfie today. Finally, we were wearing the buttons at the same time, but I have to say you all aren't just my colleagues, you're also my friends. And that matters a great deal to me. Some of you, we've been sitting in these rooms together for a really long time, and we look so much better now than we did 20 years ago. Right, Bert? Yeah, and so and it's an honor and a privilege to be with you. So today we are going to talk about how to deepen relationships with donors. I promised you a couple of game-changing ideas before you leave, so we'll see if I can provide those or if you're going to provide them for me too. I could tell you where you're wasting your time, but you all already know that part of it, so do we need to cover that today? Where you should be spending your time? So we might just skip over that. I have a quiz, so I'm going to start with, so I hope your anxiety level will go up. Look at poor Sharon, she just lifted her head from her dessert. Yeah, so did Amanda take the quizzes? Maybe? Did you take the quizzes? Yeah, that's all right. Sorry. As long as you have food in your mouth, it's time to hand them out. Yeah, so I have 40 copies, so, and we'd like one for the children's table in the annex if we could. These are my rowdy boys. We had to separate them from everybody else.
So can we share? I mean, do we just look at them?
No, you're welcome to share if you can. I mean,
see, I'm not working, so.
Yeah, so if you're not working, you don't need one.
Funny. I mean, I'm not now employed at where I have to go find donors.
And you all do not have to share your answers, but you should probably get your pens out and look like you know the answers to these. So, you know, you want to keep the image up with your colleagues and everything. Great question.
Does everybody have one?
Who wants one? Okay.
Two extra.
Okay. Yeah, Paul wants one over here. That's good.
What's M1?
Oh, M1 is money, cash, checks, charges, current stuff. I was an economics major. I can't balance a checkbook, so I was an economics major. That's M1, the stuff that flows in and out. For the viewers at home, I'm sorry, this is going to be the most boring thing on the website we've ever posted.
I have to edit it out.
Oh, good, thank you. Make sure you get my chin out. Okay, so I'll cut off your pain threshold at the moment. I'd love to see a show of hands if you're willing to do it, but can you all name your top 5 donors from in descending order? Yes, I heard an affirmative. Okay, there's a little bit of blankness, and that's okay too. Those of you who can, why is that important? Or those of you who can't, why would that be important information for you to have? I'm sorry? Prioritizing what?
Where are you going to get your money?
Where are you going to get your money?
Relationships.
Prioritizing relationships. So what does that mean?
Well, when you think about it, who to spend time with,
Okay.
and those people are priorities.
Okay. Okay. What you did right with those people that you can apply to others. Okay. What you did right with those people that you can apply to others. Because there might be some consistent techniques over there. Yeah? Anybody else? Okay, well, I'll be honest with you. I learned fundraising from a guy from Yale, and he was, I'm going to walk, Mark, I'm sorry, I just have to walk. So he was what we call a hard, I'll say nosed person in the fundraising business. And the first thing that I had to learn was who the top donors were. I didn't need to know the top 15, I needed to know the top 100. And so I took the printout, and the printout was on, you know, the big old printout paper, and I stuck it to my door in my bedroom, and every night and every morning I had to study that as to the names. Some people like the Joneses, which Joneses were related to which Joneses, and so on and so forth. And it taught me something that was very important, which was not only that I knew who they were, but that they knew that I knew who they were. That was more important. So that when they walked into the office, they knew that in their own minds, if they were a star, that they were going to be treated like a star. Does that make sense? Yeah. So the truth is, really in the further down question is not who your top 15 are and so on, although it's important for, I think, as a practitioner of quality to see where is that breakdown, because if you say ask your people to run you a report on who are the top 100, you may see at number 87 there's a dramatic drop. These are all $1,000 donors or $5,000 donors or $10,000 donors, and then there's this blankness to the next level down. That's an important piece of information for you to know what that number is and what that threshold is. But the more important question I'm going to ask you all is, how do you define top? When you say, I know who my top 5 donors are, I got some nods over here, how do you define that? Herb, I want answer. I mean, like, real answer.
The vortex of inclination and capacity.
Passion.
The vortex of inclination and capacity.
Inclination
And capacity.
and capacity is how you define top, okay? Passion. What is passion? How does that play out?
They are
You told us we had to be loud.
living to their mission of your organization. They're all
Right.
about you.
I thought I was going to say engagement.
Passion, engagement. What is? How do you measure in their
Total
level?
lifetime giving.
Total lifetime giving. Okay, hold that thought for 1 second. So when you're talking about engagement, how do you define their engagement? I mean, how do they define their engagement?
Are they giving? Do they know about you? What do they know about you? Are they telling others about you?
Okay, all right, so I just heard actually a number, and I put a little list on the bottom of your sheet of some of the things that I think of when I think about how to define top. And one of them is, how many people are they bringing to your organization? Are they an ambassador for you? Because if they're giving to you and they give to you every year consistently, that's fabulousness. But the truth is, you want them to keep taking the next layer down, don't you? Or the next layer out. Total lifetime giving. So does that mean that your dead donors are your best donors? Are they alive? I mean, when you're talking about top, I'm serious. I really want you to think about this.
Alive.
They're alive.
Yeah.
So they've told you what they're going to do, maybe.
Well, even so, but you know, I think the list of those who are alive, who both have the highest lifetime giving and in the last few years high annual giving, certainly lets me figure out who's a top donor.
Okay.
But the legacy of a dead donor gives you a story that you can share repeatedly.
I got to raise $580,000 this year. Last year we raised $200,000. I've got to know who the big givers are right away.
True.
Okay. So this is what I love about this chapter. You all are not afraid. So today, some of us are celebrating the death of Eleanor Malone, who was a big donor to many of us in Henderson County. So this is a year anniversary. So my question this morning as I was waking up, noticing that on my calendar, which is a weird thing you put on your calendar, but that's a whole nother story, is I wonder if she is the biggest donor to some of our Henderson County organizations And that is like their biggest gift that they're going to get for years and years and years.
Yep.
It is. And so how do they get the next big gift? You know, Eleanor is dead. She can't tell her story anymore. How do we use her in a wonderful way, engage her memory to challenge the next level of donors? Which is why I'm asking you whether or not when you count your top donors, are they dead or alive? It's a silly question, but it's actually quite true. Are they future donors or are they past donors? I mean, you know, you walk onto Western's campus and there's a blah, blah, blah Jones building named after Mr. Jones, who's been dead 150 years, right? So we know how to name people, you know, honor people who are dead. Thoughts?
But some deceased will have family members and extended family members that have the capacity to do what the deceased person did.
Okay, so then the question becomes, are you spending time cultivating the family members of the deceased people? Well, I bet you on your all's to-do list, you probably don't have any family members of deceased people on your today's to-do list. I mean, I'm not criticizing you. Oh, Kim does.
I called Eleanor's son today.
Awesome.
As a matter of fact.
Good.
Because he continues to manage part of his mother's estate that was left behind. So
Okay.
that became important.
Great. Good. So Kim's on her way to another gift from a deceased person via her son. Right? Thoughts, comments? Is this a very strange conversation? Yeah.
I was gonna say, I think you gotta have a balance here, because
Okay.
from the annual giving side, you're looking for majority of the capacity for them to give and how much they love us. On the plan giving side, or the gift planning, when they're gonna make an ultimate gift, a testamentary gift, I'm looking for the, you know, the little old lady or little, you know, widower or widow who's giving us $25 every December 4th. They stroke that check without fail for 30 years.
Yes.
They've been remembering us. They love us.
Yes.
And so if you don't have the capacity within your operation to have a development, a research staff that knows, you know, what they own publicly, how long they've owned it, and that sort of thing, you can get that information otherwise. It's another conversation. But I think you need to focus on the people who inclination in that regard could be more. I'd rather have somebody who loves us, who may not have the capacity, than somebody who's got great capacity that's so stingy they're not going to get to you anyway.
Okay. Anybody want to take issue? Yeah. Or
Well, I think you also need to look at recency, frequency, and materiality.
recency, frequency, and materiality. Tell me what those
SAT
words mean.
words.
Well, we look at our database, we have analyzed.
Can they hear her back there? You mean you have to stand up?
Oh, I don't want to stand up. I'm usually
So,
too
yeah.
loud anyway. Well, I'll just be louder, but, you know, who gave the most recently, how frequently they give, and the size of their gift.
Okay. Is that what you all are looking at? My little quiet table with broken arm in the back? Gonna pick on you. I'll come to you if you don't.
You can't hear everything.
Okay.
You know, one of the things that I have a conversation about with people on a regular basis is, do you know why your donors give or why they gave?
Right.
And that, because
Okay.
you're right, for me, it's not just about the amount they gave. It's about the passion, the consistency, the frequency, and why they started giving.
I think what you're saying is incredibly important, and I'm going to lob a gift at you in just a moment when I get up there. I think what you're saying is very important. We do need to know why our donors are giving to us. It's critical in order for us to continue to give to them what they want from us. So I was having this conversation with some folks this week. So Susan loves getting plaques, and I know that because I walked into her office one day and I saw the plaques on her wall. Well, you know, so my organization is going to give her a plaque or something because that matters to her. And I walked into Cecily's office and there was artwork and there were no plaques, and she's just as often a donor, a frequent donor, and just as a large donor and just as active, but there are no plaques. So my giving her a plaque, I think, is not going to work as successfully as it is over here, right? So if I'm in their office, if I'm in their home, I can see the cues and clues that turn them on. If I'm sitting in my office on my phone or in my car on the cell, I can't see that stuff. So yeah, why they give to us is incredibly important, and what they value is incredibly important information. The question comes back to, who do you ask first what that information is? you know, if you have 6,000 volunteers, I don't know how many donors Man Food Bank has, you have, you know, what, 20,000 donors, how do you know who to ask first? And so how do you ask them? Does anybody ask your donors why they give to you?
We're getting ready to do a survey of our $500 and above folks.
Is that considered a major gift for you?
It is, but we're shifting the bar upward a little bit.
You're shifting the bar from $500 up
To 1,000.
to 1,000. And how do you know that that's going to be a successful shift or a shift that should be made?
We don't necessarily. That's why we're kind of thinking it through very carefully.
Okay.
Before we, but we've been at that $500 level for years and years, and our upper giving levels have grown, and we don't have the personnel to manage the portfolio size.
Okay, so you're doing some research that says what your donor, and is looking at what your donors are saying to you, which is what a major gift is. And they've been saying up to now $500 is kind of a major gift to them on an annual basis, and you're going to ask to bump them up. And we do know that it is cheaper for you to ask your current donors for more money than it is to get a new donor, right? We're all nods all around on that one, right? We're clear on that. Yes, sir.
In trying to find out there, if you identify them as a donor, you can determine what their interests are and then maybe categorize all the people that have an interest in this area. I mean, this is a cookie cutter. So you want to do this individually if you can, but first of all, when you identify somebody, you need to find out what their interest is because you want to feed them the information that's what they're passionate about. They could give to any organization, but they like this particular thing about your organization. That's the information they want. Then they're going to get involved, the Five Eyes, and then you ask for an investment, or they may even volunteer. By the way, before I mislead anybody about playing this, we're not necessarily going after folks who are in the age. In fact, the prime candidates are 40 to 54 years of age for a plan gift. Why? Because that's when they make their first will.
Right.
When do they make their first will? They get married, they have the first child, or they fly over a large body of water.
Okay, all right. So anybody want Herb to?
Yeah, can I add something
Yeah,
to that,
please
Annie?
do.
So it goes back to what you're saying earlier. You said that it's important that they know that you know who they are. So it doesn't matter if you go after recency or you go after capacity or you go after the intersection of both of those, then you make it human. And you sit down with them and you say, I've seen that you've been making a gift every year for 20 years. Or I appreciate your $500 gift that you made. Let me tell you what the impact of that was.
Yes.
And you let them know that you know what you can know about them. You're never going to know it all. So maybe you don't know yet that they like dogs instead of cats. But when you're in their house, you'll find that out.
Right.
And then your card, when you follow up, will have a dog on it.
Right.
So to speak, you know.
And you're going to say, and by
that's
the
what
way,
you do. You make it
Mandy,
human.
you've been giving to this organization for 20 years, and I have to tell you, I've only been working here 3, or I just came a year ago. Tell me how to start it.
Yeah.
And shut the up.
Yeah,
right?
you tell me more than I could ever know because you know it better than I do. Because you're an alum from 30 years ago.
Exactly.
And even if I've been here for 15. Yeah.
Right, exactly. So one of the things that silence is our best friend. So do you all practice silence? All the time. Yeah, this one, I know what this one does because that's part of our spiritual practice. Silence really is important to us as we're talking to these people, is to give them time, not to run over their answer, and to actually listen to what it is that they have to say. Then we try and put it in the database. That's awesome. I owe you a gift. I'm coming back to your gift. Okay, but let me ask you, how many of you all define top donor as a person who gives time? Okay, you don't have an agency. Okay. Just sort of count. Anybody volunteer hours? Okay, so tell me about how do you your donor? A donor to you is someone who gives cash as well as time. Okay, and how do you recognize that, log that in?
We have a particular donor. Can everybody hear me? Yes. She is a woman. We served, I work for a hospice agency, so when her husband got ill, he was the first person that we served at our hospice house. She has been dedicated to us for years. And she is not a huge dollar donor, but she has no children. She really has no family that lives close by, and she's in our office every day. So she is part of our inner circle of people. She knows about everything first. She's I make sure she's on the inside track of all information, and I've already asked her for a plan.
Okay.
And that came out of, I was doing, we paid off our mortgage on our hospice house, and she said, how did you do that? And I said, people who give us planned gifts do not know the impact of their gifts. And we started talking about that conversation, and I asked her for a planned gift.
Okay.
It just all happened very organically, but I have a relationship with her.
Right.
You know, she asked me to sing at her husband's funeral, and I did. You know what I mean?
So there's a great example of a one-on-one, deep, organic relationship that Diane was able to build. Now, so let me ask you, I've forgotten your name next to you. Michelle. Do you actually track in a donor database hours that your donors are giving you as a volunteer? I mean, is anybody tracking that kind of level? Yeah. Okay.
Yes, we are.
You do.
And we're a small organization. We don't have a lot of volunteers. The hospital does, but yes, we do track.
Okay. And so as a donor to you on a monthly basis, do I get a thank you note that says, Annie, thank you for your 23 hours this month, or do I get one at the end of the year that says thanks for your 160 hours?
Yes, on an annual basis. We send out a handwritten from the foundation, as well as the board chair sends out a handwritten thank you to our volunteers.
Okay, and does it say how many hours I gave you?
It does not.
Okay. Anybody doing that? I think it's something to consider. I just think it's something to consider, especially when a room full of very smart people aren't doing it. I think it's something to consider.
Our hospital does do that, I'm sorry.
Okay.
The foundation does not, but our hospital does.
Okay.
On an annual basis.
Okay.
We do send out thank you notes, as well as we do an annual luncheon that puts the hours.
Okay. And do you all?
Our volunteer coordinator has a really good tracking system. It's very automated. People get emails on their birthdays. They get emails when they reach certain service milestones. When you've done 100 hours, you get an official man name tag.
Cool.
And they do T-shirts sometimes. On the money side, when we get a donation from somebody that I recognize as a volunteer, especially a frequent volunteer, we'll flag that. So when we put a little note on the bottom, we can say thanks also for your volunteer contribution.
Okay, are you guys doing that? Acknowledging both? I highly recommend that you consider it and how you can do that. Because if we're talking about deepening a relationship with a donor, and a donor who gives an hour of time, right now, we were just talking about this last week, it's valued roughly $23.50 an hour. That's what we call real money. At least I do. And I will never forget Amanda saying once that she would rather sometimes just make the contribution and not volunteer, because where she is at this moment in her time, she'd really rather just buy the Girl Scout cookies than have to go with her daughter door to door to sell the Girl Scout cookies. She doesn't even have a daughter. Right? So you and I understand this, right? We would sometimes, please, I don't want to teach the course, just take my $500 contribution and go away, right? Because our time is very valuable to us. So when we're giving you our time, but you are not tracking our time, there's a miscommunication there. Right? And so this is another way for us to deepen the relationship. What else is on there? We'll go back and get you your gift. Oh, I have prayer and stuff. Yes.
If I can also tell one, as a retired fundraiser, my daughter is the executive director for the Deering Estate in Miami, Florida, Cutler Ridge, actually. One of the things that she did, the Deering passed away years and years and years ago. But the Deering estate is still there and always has been, and she's been the executive director now for probably 5 years. One of the things that she did, I don't know if you are familiar with the Mccormick Deering, it's a farm tractor kind of thing, some people are familiar with that. Because the family had been gone, or at least the parents were gone for many, many years, she researched and found out if they had any grandchildren. She found a granddaughter in California. So she started mailing information about what was going on at her grandparents' place for all these years, communicated back and forth with her for about 6 months, sent her information, had her look up things on the internet, because you can find what they have a seafood festival every year that brings in 6,000 people out on the bay in Florida. So she put that on so that her granddaughter could see that. And then, after 6 months, she set up an appointment to go visit her out in California, just as a visitor, not to go ask for money, just as a visit. Found out that they had a vineyard. So they also were making wine. And they got, after several communications back and forth, only one visit out there, you know, real person-to-person, one-on-one, they received their first $500,000 gift from them. And they are supplying all the wine every year for their seafood festival for 6,000 people. They actually ship it from California to Miami, Florida. And it's a way for them, of course, to get great visibility. But the granddaughter was so excited because nobody had ever contacted her about the Deering estate. And now she's back into the family thing. And they're wonderful. Mary has a great relationship with them. So it's just, it's like you don't always have to go after, you know, the donor. Go after the grandchild. I don't mean to say go after. I guess that's some words we use once in a while.
She's in a safe room now.
Yeah, do a little research on the family because.
But as Jonathan said, it's about being human.
It's about, well, it is, isn't it? Yes. And the granddaughter was so excited, and she and her husband now come every year to the seafood festival, and they serve the wine that they get there, and so.
That's amazing.
It is, and thanks for the story firm, because I love those stories, and I hate them because I want the $500,000 gift too, and we aren't always going to get that $500,000 gift. But the truth is, we might get a $1,000 gift, which might lead to something else or might not. But that's exactly how we're doing this. I have on your list a couple of other thoughts about this, and one of them says stuff. And by stuff, I mean maybe you have a thrift store, and so you want stuff for your thrift store. You want people to have top of mind to, you know, give their leftover goodies to your thrift store. But maybe you want a diamond necklace or a trip or this beach house for a silent auction. So that's another dimension to our top donors when we're having conversations with them, is what are the, you know, what is that? You know, I didn't realize that Holly had a home in Curacao, and you know, that's, you know, man, I've always wanted to go to Curacao, right? But Holly, yeah, I didn't either. And prayer. I put prayer on the list only because for some of you, it's very appropriate to ask donors for prayer. It's very appropriate. For some of you, it is not. But sometimes that spiritual connection is what begins the relationship. So what I did, I just have a star on here. It could be a spiral. It could be, you know, it could be a hexagon. It could be whatever you have. But when you're thinking about your top donors or donors to your organization, what are the entry points that you can offer to them to start with that is multidimensional? And then where is that donor not hitting all the points on your star, or whatever it is? I'll use the example of a star. Does that make sense? So for example, they give you the cash, they give you the stuff. You know that they're praying for you because they tell you that, but they never come to an event. So that's the deepening point for that person. Why don't they come to events? Because they're a wicked introvert? Because they're an alcoholic? I mean, who knows? There might be a really great reason. But again, it's a point for you all to have that one-to-one relationship, to say, you know, it would really be important to me, Diane, if you could come to our 25th anniversary event this year, because you have a special way with our donors, and we would love to have you there. And they feel the love. Because this is all about you showing the love in as strategic a manner as you can, right? I mean, it was just so weird. Yeah, which is what this one always says. Okay, and then I have obviously a capital campaign gift, a lump sum at special times. Some of you do offer annuities, which I think is great. I hope the interest rate is worth doing that again. So as I make a contribution to you, I can get money in return. Who doesn't like that? Or someone I love can get money in return for that. Okay, anything else that you all would add to your list in terms of entry points or ways in which to deepen your donor relationships with your donors? What are you all doing that we haven't talked about today? Yeah.
Well, I'm thinking sponsorships.
Sponsorship?
There are businesses that will sponsor events for me, and then I give them all kinds of
credit, right?
For that.
Publicity.
And then I go back to them every year and say, thank you so much, blah, 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 and then they become become part of that organization.
Okay, so I might give you a gift as an individual, but my business might give you a sponsorship.
Right.
Great, good addition. Yeah, Becky?
Our situation may not be completely applicable, but we invite donors to go on site visits to organizations that receive grants, whether or not that's an organization that they have funded themselves or that they're interested in. And that usually opens up additional opportunities, maybe not necessarily with that organization, but at least additional information about what they support and what they're interested in.
Good, and so in terms of events, we often, I put this on in terms of a fundraising event, but great, a site visit to what you're doing, where you are. I don't know what you're doing, Jonathan, and the Richmond Hill burned down the last I heard of it, so now it's a great opportunity for us to have some visits.
Let's go visit, all of us.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll do a
You
meeting
know,
there.
or the winery, whoever has the winery. Yeah, no, but I mean, these are great opportunities for us to see hands-on. That might be an entry point. This is a true story. I was visiting a friend of mine in Boston, as a matter of fact, and he said, I'd love for you to come and see this organization I support. And I'm like, okay, great. So I'm a fundraiser and I want to go see what they're doing and all this other stuff. So I went, do you know I became a donor, right? Walked into this organization, 5 years I supported them. He had long since gone off the board, and I'm still supporting them because their development director was so great, and they had cookies in the shape of reindeer at Christmas time. You know, so obviously I'm in the dark for a cookie, but anyway, and it was like they're doing such great work, and I was on the tour, and I bought into it completely. So that was kind of funny to me, but anyway. Yeah, Herb, you want to add something to the
I was
list?
going to add, the simple thank you note, we all take that for granted. I think certainly handwritten thank you notes, wonderful, and it's not expected, but it's very well received. But take it one step further. I think you need to find 5 ways to thank them for that single gift. Case in point.
Wait a minute. I don't know that I have time for case in point, but
Okay, no.
what dollar level are you talking
Just
about?
specifically, like if I know you love Dotsons, I'm going to go find a card that has a Dotson on it, and you're going to say, "Oh, he remembered." You know,
right.
That endears
So
you
who
to
gets
it.
that? $100
Well, not
donor?
many people.
Okay.
That's the issue. It's a great opportunity. And the second thing is the return on the investment. People want to know if you're going to get a repeat gift. If you're not just telling them what their money bought, you're not telling them the impact that their gift had on your charity this past year, you're not going to get another gift from it.
Okay, but so for the room, what level are you all doing a handwritten thank you note in addition to the IRS letter? Ours is $500. $500 and above?
Everybody.
Everybody. They give you $1, I'm going to handwritten.
Yes, absolutely.
Wow.
We have a board member call when it's
A board member call?
usually 1,000. If it's 500 from a new donor.
We call for everything.
We do too.
I worked at an organization that had a thrift store, and I didn't call the donors of cash, I called the donors to the thrift store. Because I'd see their tax receipt, and I call them, I say, even if it was a message on the machine, thanks for leaving your stuff at the store, because we're going to sell it, and I'd rather you come back and rebuy it and give it back to us. I just let the funny note. And do you know that our annual giving went up as a result, I think, of those phone calls? Yeah, man.
We always plan 1 or 2 times a year to get a group together, whether it's volunteers or board members and staff, during lunch. Some of you are going to understand this concept. 11 to 1. And we print off a list of, to that point in the year, all donors. If they haven't already been called and thanked, we give everybody a script and go over it with them. And we say, make your phone calls, say your thank yous. 99% of the time, people aren't going to answer the phone because it's during lunch. And you can knock out hundreds of phone calls, depending on how many volunteers you have. We did close to 1,000 in 2.5 hours with 11 volunteers because people don't answer the phone. And so if you have too many donors to thank, call me. I'd love to meet you. If my gift is not important enough to get a phone call and thank me, or write a handwritten thank you letter once a year, not for every gift I make, but once a year, then for me as a donor, obviously my gift is not important to you.
Let me just thank you for that, because our response to their gifts is what's going to take them to the next level. We've talked a little bit today about some entry points, and maybe some entry points in your STAR that you're not covering. How do you decide who you're going to deepen that relationship with? First, it is always by the numbers. whether it's the donor who's got the longest length of time to you, but the dollar amount doesn't matter, whether it's a volunteer who's given to you for 30 years but who doesn't get much money, whether it's someone who's given a one-shot deal but giving you a large gift, however you want to define that, start at that point and see how you can deepen the relationships. And I'll be honest with you, these can be great calls for your board members who say, I'll never fundraise, because being with you will help them get over their fears, and all you're doing is taking them to lunch. It's a gentle, sometimes in many cases, or saying, you know, Debbie, would you greet some people as they come to our annual event? But you have prepped Debbie as to who these people are. So it's being thorough. Let me just, I did go to the Fundraising Effectiveness Program report, for 2015. Because one of the things that I think is important that we remember that the number, they surveyed 8,000 organizations. This is available at AFPWNC.org. But is that the revenue increased on average 2.6%, but the number of donors decreased 1.5%. So if you and I are going to continue to see a decrease in our donors, no matter, we know that we gain 5 and lose 6 on average. You all can figure out your own statistics on an annual basis. So if we're going to continue to lose our donors and we have to continue to raise more money, then obviously each of the donors has to give more. It's a much faster rate on return if you spend your money getting them to give more than trying to get more donors in. Henderson County, we happen to have an opposite issue because we have a lot of people move in every week. And so we have about 1,000 people who move into the county a month, and we've got to figure out how to get in touch with those people and look at them. I mean, it's a huge number. I promised you a couple of game changers, and then we're going to either end early or have some more questions. So I'm going to share with you 3 game changers for me, and I'd love to hear what has changed your game. The first one is for Becky. Thank you, Becky, for being here. Because years and years and years and years ago, when we all had money, which was, you know, it was not a recession, it was a depression, but that's me. You know, when we all had these very fancy events, we wore beautiful outfits and so on and so forth. So about 15 years ago, I bought a purse. And so I love this purse. I was probably at a party event, and I probably had my fancy outfit on, my fancy shoes. And so I loved this purse, so I bought this purse. And so it's like, I didn't want to put it on the floor at dinner, but the chairs were rounded, so I couldn't hang them. And so I put it on the table, and it was clashing with the centerpiece. And this was the dumbest purse I've ever bought in my entire life, okay? But I think it's really adorable. So it sits on my shelf, and so I'm like, okay, girl, you have got to either give it, sell it, you got to get rid of this thing because it is just taking up space. Well, my higher power, whom I choose to call God, said, oh, let's not get rid of that so fast. So this is my planned giving program, my end-of-life program. So I want you all to see how we can have a fun conversation. Becky's eyes are huge. This is the power of the purse. So my ashes, when I'm cremated, are to go into this purse. You're laughing at me. You're not.
It's about the right size.
It's a perfect size. Yeah. I mean, when I got my mother back in a zippy bag, I was very disappointed, you know. And so I'm going to be in a zippy bag, but you know I can't just be gray ashes in a zippy bag, so I had to go buy some glitter. So I have tubes of glitter in my purse that I want you to mix my ashes with. Alex, your face is just classic.
Is there anyone here who doesn't understand this? Of course that's what you're going to do.
Of course that's what I'm going to do. So I went to my big box Michaels and I bought my Martha glitter and so on and so forth. And so I showed this to my healthcare power of attorney so that when I go, I do not want there to be a brass urn at my funeral. If y'all see a brass urn at the funeral, you know something is not connected. I want to be in the purse. And she said, okay, well, your family, I love your family. It's like, oh, yeah, but, and she's like, yeah, but they have no common sense. You know this. And I said, yeah, they're pretty brilliant. They have no common sense. She said, I need you to put a note in there to tell them to take the tops off the glitter. Otherwise, when they spread your ashes, they're going to just throw the tubes away. So ask God. So there's a little note here that says, dearest ones, please empty the glitter and mix with my ashes. And then
a liturgy for this and the next edition of the book.
Done. Done. Here's my funeral. So Kim, Dan, I want you all to see this. Alex, yes, here it is. Okay, one-stop shopping. So at the power of the purse, I think you should sell purses and encourage your women to buy them to do their plan giving programs. That's what I said. So this was a game changer.
That's a great idea.
It is a great idea because it's funny. We are not talking about the serious. Herb is over there going. All right.
Because most of most of us don't do that. I think that's awesome. You take the burden off your families.
A, the burden's off them, but B, I can have a conversation with any one of your organizations about plan giving and do it in a way, and I can talk about planning your will, and I can talk about all that, but we can do it in a life, human-to-human way that's funny. Because the truth is we are all going to die. And so I'm sort of ready for it. Sort of. You know, not totally, but ready. The second game changer for me was actually sitting down with my attorney and saying, do I want food and water withheld from me? It was the most difficult conversation I have ever had in my life. And until you do it, you cannot understand what you're asking your donors to do. So, I had a mother who said, honey, do as I say, not as I do. And at a very young age, I thought, you are hypocritical and I cannot tolerate this. I have never asked any of you to do something I would not do myself. So I am telling you, I want you all to write your will, to get your funeral together, and I want you to make decisions about your 5 wishes and your water and your nutrition, whatever it is that you want to do. Because if you are asking donors to do this and you have not done this, you are not authentic. And I need you to be authentic because that's what we are. I have bumper stickers out there that say solution revolution. You all are the solutions. We have the solutions. And we are the game changers here. So I want you to do that. All right. My third thing that changed my life for me that was a game changer was that when I turned 50, I decided I wanted $1 million. So I went to Alex and he turned me down for $1 million. Me personally. I went to my insurance agents and I said, okay, I want a life insurance policy of $1 million. She said, great, you can have it. Great. Had that. You all walked through me through some difficult times in my life. My kids are the most errant, fly-by-night children. They're going to get my house. They're getting my stuff. I'm cutting them out of my will. I love them dearly. They can make their own ways. I got divorced. My husband doesn't need the mortgage money anymore. Good luck. Hope you have a good life. Okay? I cut my life insurance down to $600,000, and I'm pleased to say that 2 or 3 of the organizations to whom I've left $100,000 each are in this room. So my life insurance is purely philanthropic now. My kids are going to have to find their own way.
Good for you.
Good for me. I tell you what. I'm extraordinarily blessed to be able to do that and to receive the benefit of knowing that there are 6 organizations in Western North Carolina that are going to benefit because I'm dead. It's great for me. I hope it's great for them, but it's great for me. Because some of them have walked through on their first plan giving donor and it's been really hard for them to deal with it because they don't know what to do with it. And I get that, and I want to walk through that process with them. But for me, that's been a game changer. So you all tell me, what has changed your life in doing your fundraising? Yes, sir.
May I add, and I
may.
believe you meant this when you said it a minute ago.
Okay.
You said, get your 5 wishes done, and that refers to a booklet that you can get. Google it and use a booklet called The 5 Wishes, which is available to you, that is as simple as anything you'll ever find to do all of your end-of-life planning. Am I right?
It's a good one. It is a very good one. There are some others that have come out.
Yep.
And I always promise to end early, and I know it's 1:30, so I really appreciate the time to be here. I'm here. My business cards are there. Bumper stickers are there. Thank you for what you're doing for the world, because we are making it better.
Amazing presentation.
Thank you, Annie.